You're not too nice. You're programmable. Every time you attach, you hand people leverage, then call it love while they quietly draft your obedience contract. You were taught detachment is healing. A clean, polite word for stepping back, breathing, becoming calm. That definition is designed for domesticated people. It keeps you harmless. Real detachment is not a spa. It's a battlefield doctrine. Detachment is distance with intent. It's the ability to withdraw access without apology, without explanation, and without guilt. It's the skill of removing yourself as a resource, your attention, your time, your emotional labor, so the other person loses the ability to steer you. Most men don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they're available. Availability is the biggest lie sold as virtue. Be there. Show up. Communicate. Prove your heart. That's how they train you to keep the door unlocked. Not because it's noble, because it makes you easy to use. A man who is always reachable is not loving. He's predictable. And predictability is control. If someone knows you will respond, they own the tempo. If they own the tempo, they can pressure you, delay you, reward you, punish you, without ever touching you. They can turn your emotions into a remote control. Most manipulation isn't loud. It's scheduling. So the first lens shift is simple. Detachment is not the absence of feelings. It's the refusal to let feelings dictate policy. You don't detach to become numb. You detach to stay sovereign. Sovereignty means your inner state does not belong to whoever is standing in front of you. It means you don't give people the authority to regulate your mood, your self-worth, your sleep, your appetite, your focus. The moment you let someone's approval decide your day, you've been conscripted. Detachment is how you exit conscription. You've seen this pattern. A woman leaves you on read, and your mind starts negotiating like a hostage. Maybe I said too much. Let me double text. Let me explain. You call it love. It's not. It's loss of position. It's you trying to restore status by paying with attention. Attention is currency. The naive spend it like water. The strategic spend it like ammo. Here's the brutal truth. Most people don't want you close. They want you usable. They want access without responsibility. They want emotional service without commitment. They want your certainty while they keep their options. And the only reason they can run that operation is because you treat access as a human right instead of a privilege. Detachment flips that. Detachment introduces a new rule. Access is earned, maintained, and revoked. Not through tantrums. Not through speeches. Through posture. Through scarcity. Through the quiet ability to disappear without collapsing. That last part matters. Because the weakness isn't that you care. The weakness is that you can't endure separation. If distance makes you panic, you will accept any terms to avoid it. That's why good men get used. They're trained to fear being perceived as cold, selfish, or replaceable. And the predator class senses that fear immediately. They don't need to threaten you. They just need to hint at withdrawal. A delayed reply. A colder tone. A little ambiguity. And you start performing. You start auditioning. You start selling yourself back to someone who already has your attention for free. Detachment is how you stop auditioning. It's the moment you decide, I don't chase clarity from people who benefit from confusing me. Because confusion is a tactic. When someone keeps you guessing, they keep you engaged. Your brain hates unresolved outcomes. So you keep checking your phone, replaying conversations, seeking closure. They didn't forget to reply. They deployed a hook. Detachment is you pulling the hook out without reacting. And this is why detachment is feared. Not because it's cruel, because it breaks the extraction model. It removes the reward. It removes the easy dopamine they get from your pursuit. It forces a new reality. If they want you, they must risk something. They must invest. Most won't. And that's the point. Detachment is selection pressure. It filters. It reveals. It clarifies. When you step back, you see who reaches for you with respect, and who only reaches for you when they need something. Distance exposes motives like bright light exposes dust. But you've been trained to think loyalty means staying through disrespect. That's moral programming. It's how institutions keep workers obedient, how families keep scapegoats compliant, how relationships keep providers trapped. Loyalty without leverage is slavery with poetry. Detachment is not don't care. Detachment is, I care, but I will not bargain with my dignity. So what does weaponized distance look like in practice? It looks like silence instead of debate when someone crosses a boundary. It looks like ending conversations when they turn into interrogations. It looks like not defending yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. It looks like not offering explanations to people who didn't ask in good faith. It looks like emotional budget control. Because your energy is not infinite. Every interaction taxes you. Every argument drains you. Every attempt to fix it with someone who enjoys the chaos is you funding the enemy. Detachment is you cutting funding. And once you adopt this lens, you stop being surprised by outcomes. When a person gets colder because you stop chasing, you don't panic, you diagnose. You don't say, "What happened to us?" You say, "So that's what you were feeding on." This chapter isn't teaching you a technique yet. It's teaching you the philosophy that makes techniques work. Because if you still believe detachment is rude, you'll sabotage yourself the moment you feel guilty. Guilt is the leash they use on trained men. Detachment snaps the leash. From here, you'll learn the mechanism behind control, why attachment makes you predictable, and why predictable men are easy to dominate. You'll stop calling it romance and start seeing it as leverage. Control doesn't start with force. It starts with forecasting. The moment someone can predict your next move, you are no longer a man with agency, you're a system they can operate. Attachment is the blueprint that makes you readable. Readable men get played. Not because the world is evil, but because incentives are. Here's the leverage loop, clean and surgical. Attachment, emotional dependency, predictable reactions, behavioral steering, compliance. You attach, so you start caring about outcomes. Once outcomes matter, your nervous system reacts. Once your nervous system reacts, you reveal patterns. What scares you, what excites you, what you'll tolerate to keep the connection alive. Patterns become a map. That map becomes control. The naive think manipulation is a personality type. It's not. It's a method. And methods don't require villainy, just opportunity. The biggest mistake men make is confusing intensity with truth. Intensity is just a chemical spike. Truth is consistency over time. But attachment makes you worship intensity. It makes you treat emotional highs as evidence of loyalty, and emotional lows as evidence you need to fix something. That's how you become trainable. And training is exactly what happens. If someone rewards you when you chase, you will chase. If they punish you with silence when you set standards, you will lower standards. If they give you warmth after you apologize, even when you did nothing wrong, you will start apologizing faster. This is not romance. This is conditioning. The engine behind it is simple: intermittent reinforcement. Predictable rewards don't hook you. Unpredictable rewards do. Casinos know it. Cults know it. Manipulators know it. When affection comes randomly, hot today, cold tomorrow, your brain starts working overtime to solve the pattern. You call it chemistry. It's addiction engineering. This is why mixed signals keep men trapped. Confusion isn't an accident. Confusion is glue. Once you're glued, the second mechanism activates. Self-disclosure as ammunition. When you're attached, you confess. You reveal insecurities, childhood wounds, fears, ambitions. You think you're building intimacy. What you're often doing is handing someone the exact levers required to move you. They now know what you crave: respect, reassurance, status, exclusivity. They also know what you fear: abandonment, humiliation, being replaced. Those are the two handles on every human being: desire and fear. Attachment makes both handles accessible. Then comes the third mechanism: tempo control. Whoever controls the rhythm controls the relationship. Replies, meetups, affection, attention, these are not small things. They are signals of rank. When you start adjusting your life around someone else's availability, you are conceding status. When you start waiting for permission to feel okay, you are submitting. And you can see it in your own behavior when you're attached. You over-explain. You chase closure. You try to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding you. You negotiate boundaries like you're asking for a favor. That's predictability. Predictability is a leash with no chain visible. Now listen carefully. I'm not going to help you control other people. That's low-level thinking, short-term wins, long-term weakness. Real power is not turning others into puppets. Real power is becoming unpuppetable. So the counter loop is equally surgical. Detachment, emotional budget control, unpredictable response windows, boundary enforcement, sovereignty. This doesn't mean you become erratic. It means you stop being programmable. You respond by policy, not by provocation. Your first defensive shift is delay. Not as a technique to play games, delay as a filter to stop emotional reflex. Reflex is how they steer you. Delay returns you to command. Your second shift is standards without speeches. The more you explain a boundary, the more you invite negotiation. Boundaries are not debates. They are gates. Your third shift is no confession to the unproven. Intimacy is earned. Until someone demonstrates consistency, your inner world is private territory. You don't hand out the layout of your fortress because someone smiled at the door. Your fourth shift is multiple pillars. A man with one emotional supply source becomes desperate. Desperate men become compliant. Build a life that doesn't collapse if one person withdraws warmth. Once you grasp the leverage loop, you stop labeling your suffering as bad luck. You see the mechanics. You stop treating attachment as virtue. You treat it as risk exposure. And what happens next is important. You'll start recognizing the archetypes, the people and patterns that feed on predictable men. You'll see them faster than they can hide. Most men lose because they think manipulation looks like a villain. It doesn't. It looks like a familiar face with a strategy. You don't need to know someone's intentions. You need to recognize their pattern. Predators don't innovate. They repeat what works. These 5 archetypes are the most common extraction models in modern relationships and social circles. Learn them, and you stop negotiating with traps. 1. The buyer. I invested, so you owe. This one doesn't bond. He purchases. Gifts, favors, introductions, attention. None of it is generosity. It's a down payment on your compliance. The buyer keeps receipts in his head and cashes them when it benefits him. His signature move is transactional morality. After all I've done for you, translation, your autonomy is for sale, and I already paid. If you refuse, he becomes offended, not disappointed, because he believes refusal is theft. The buyer targets men who confuse gratitude with surrender. 2. The judge. Prove you deserve air. The judge installs himself as the authority over your worth. He doesn't ask, he evaluates. He makes you feel like you're always on trial, your masculinity, your competence, your intentions. The relationship becomes a courtroom and you become a defendant begging for a fair hearing. His weapon is standards with no accountability. He criticizes freely but is untouchable. If you confront him, he reframes you as unstable. Why are you so defensive? The judge isn't seeking truth, he's seeking rank. If you accept the trial, you accept him as the measuring stick. That's how you get domesticated. 3. The savior. You need me, so I lead. The savior offers rescue, guidance, emotional support, help. But it's not help. It's a collar. He studies your pain points and positions himself as your cure, so you start associating your stability with his presence. His signature move is dependency farming. He solves just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to make you independent. When you start standing on your own, he becomes subtly hostile, because your strength threatens his relevance. The Savior doesn't want you healed. He wants you managed. 4. The Ghost. I vanish to control your nervous system. The Ghost is not inconsistent. He is deliberate. He withdraws affection, disappears mid-connection, delays replies, goes cold without explanation. Not because he's busy, because he's running an experiment. How fast will you chase? How hard will you work to restore warmth? His weapon is silence as punishment and ambiguity as bait. Your mind fills the vacuum with self-blame. You start overfunctioning, apologizing, explaining, performing. The Ghost doesn't argue. He doesn't need to. He lets your attachment do the labor. This archetype is the casino dealer of relationships. Intermittent reward, maximum addiction. 5. The Dealer. I control supply, so I control you. The dealer controls access to attention, intimacy, information, opportunities, social validation. He creates scarcity, then sells relief. He's the architect of maybe. Maybe you'll get commitment. Maybe you'll get approval. Maybe you'll get the truth. His signature move is the moving goalpost. The moment you meet the standard shifts. Why? Because the goal was never the outcome, it was the chase. The dealer understands a brutal law. Men will tolerate humiliation if they believe the prize is close. He keeps the prize close enough to taste, never close enough to hold. Now understand what links these archetypes. They all exploit predictable men. The buyer exploits your guilt. The judge exploits your need for approval. The savior exploits your weakness as a role. The ghost exploits your fear of abandonment. The dealer exploits your addiction to possibility. And the moment you see that, you stop doing the one thing they rely on, emotional negotiation. You don't explain to the judge. You exit the court. You don't repay the buyer. You reject the invoice. You don't confess to the savior. You deny access to your blueprint. You don't chase the ghost. You let him starve. You don't earn the dealer's supply. You build your own. These aren't personalities. They're systems. And systems collapse when the target stops feeding them. Next, we deepen the threat, because this isn't just dating drama. This is human nature, refined by history, status warfare, and modern social engineering. You want to believe this is personal. A bad relationship. A toxic friend. A manipulative coworker. That belief is comforting because it implies the problem is rare. It isn't. What you are dealing with is older than romance and cleaner than evil. Bonding is a control technology. Human beings learned long ago that the fastest way to dominate a man is not to break his bones. It's to capture his emotional orientation, what he fears losing, what he craves earning, and who he needs to approve him. That's not cynicism. That's strategy. Nations, tribes, religions, corporations, and families have used the same operating system for centuries. In warfare, you don't only target supply lines. You target morale. You isolate units, disrupt communication, exhaust decision-making, and then offer relief at the price of surrender. You think that's a battlefield concept. It's not. It's also dating. It's also office politics. It's also friendship. The modern version is psychological siege. No walls, no weapons, just tempo manipulation and status pressure. Look at interrogation logic. The goal is rarely information first. The goal is dependency. Sleep disruption, uncertainty, alternating pressure, and kindness. The point is to make the subject associate safety with the interrogator. Once that association forms, compliance follows. Not because the subject is stupid, but because their nervous system learns a new master. The relationship equivalent is the same. Coldness, warmth, coldness, warmth. Confusion. relief, gratitude for basic decency. This is how people train you to accept scraps and call it love. And history backs it. Every hierarchy runs on controlled attachment. Loyalty to a leader, devotion to a cause, obedience to a family system, faith in a promise. None of those are automatically wrong, but they become chains when the attachment is one-sided, when you are loyal while the other side is opportunistic. That's when honor becomes a tool used against you. Men are especially vulnerable because we're trained to mistake endurance for strength. You were told, take it, handle it, don't complain, prove you're solid. Good. That makes you useful. It also makes you exploitable. Because the exploiter doesn't need you to be emotional. They need you to be committed. Commitment is leverage. Once you commit, emotionally, socially, sexually, financially, your options narrow. Your image is at stake. Your pride is at stake. Your sunk cost is at stake. And sunk cost is one of the most reliable traps in human decision-making. The more you invest, the harder it becomes to admit you invested into a dead asset. So you double down. You rationalize. You work on it. You compromise your standards in the name of maturity. That's not maturity. That's asset protection for someone who doesn't deserve the asset. Now add the ugly layer. Human nature rewards winners, not good men. Not in a fairy tale sense. In a selection sense. People gravitate toward those who appear self-contained, those who don't leak desperation, those who don't ask for permission to be respected. When you are overly attached, you start bargaining for a place in someone's life. That bargaining communicates low rank. And low rank invites extraction. This is why nice guys become unpaid labor. They think giving more will buy love. The world doesn't reward giving. It rewards scarcity and standards. Not because everyone is cruel, but because value follows what is hard to access. Here's the real threat. We now live in a market where attention is monetized, intimacy is gamified, and social validation is a currency. Algorithms amplify the same mechanics predators use: intermittent reward, uncertainty, constant comparison, and the illusion of infinite options. So the environment itself is adversarial. Your emotions are being farmed. Your time is being taxed. Your dignity is being negotiated. If you don't develop detachment, you don't just lose relationships. You lose your ability to think clearly under pressure. And once a man loses clarity, he becomes governable by anyone who can trigger him. This chapter is the permission slip to stop being morally manipulated. Detachment is not cruelty. It's anti-capture protocol. Next, we move from diagnosis to action. 5 detachment techniques that remove leverage and restore control of tempo, access, and validation. This is where you stop understanding the game and start changing your position inside it. Detachment is not a mindset. It's a set of behaviors that make you expensive to manipulate. You're going to apply 5 techniques. They're not tips. They're control protocols. Each one removes a lever from the other person's hand. Use them without theatrics. No speeches. No announcements. A king doesn't publish his security system. Technique 1. Deny access. Make yourself a privilege, not a public utility. Most men give access by default. They answer immediately. They explain everything. They make themselves emotionally available to anyone who shows interest. That's how you become a free service. Detachment begins when you treat access like controlled airspace. Access has layers. Time access, your availability. Attention access, your focus. Emotional access, your inner world. Physical access, intimacy. Decision access, influence over your choices. The rule is simple. No one gets full access without proof. Proof is consistency, respect, and reciprocity over time. Not chemistry. Not apologies. Not potential. So what does denying access look like? You end conversations that turn disrespectful, not by arguing, by leaving. You stop replying to bait. You don't offer unlimited emotional processing to someone who hasn't earned it. You stop being the always available man. This collapses the buyer's invoices, the judge's courtroom, the savior's dependency, the ghost's bait, the dealer's supply control. Because they cannot steer what they cannot reach. Technique 2. Control time. Own the tempo, own the frame. Tempo is rank. Whoever sets the rhythm sets the relationship. If you are always adjusting to someone else's timing, you are not leading, you are reacting. Time control is not play hard to get. It's refusing to be trainable. Trainability looks like this. They delay, you chase. They go cold, you perform. They withdraw, you increase effort. That's a conditioned loop. Break it by implementing response windows and non-reactive pacing. You respond when it serves your schedule, not their anxiety. You don't reward coldness with more effort. You don't rush to fix tension that someone else created on purpose. A man who controls time communicates, "My life is already full." Not with words, with behavior. This forces a shift. Either they respect your frame or they self-select out. Technique 3. Starve validation. Stop feeding them your need. Validation is the drug dealer's sell. Approval, reassurance, compliments, good boy attention. These are not harmless. If you need them, you will pay for them. And the price is usually your standards. The judge archetype thrives because men crave the verdict, "Am I good enough?" The moment you seek that verdict, you hand the judge power. Starving validation means this. You don't fish for reassurance. You don't argue to be seen as the good guy. You don't defend yourself to hostile juries. You let misunderstanding stand when clarification would be wasted. Most men cannot do this. They panic at being misread. That panic is a tell. It shows dependence on reputation inside another person's head. You don't need to control their perception. You need to control your policy. If someone wants to believe you're wrong, let them. Your job is not to win their approval. Your job is to remain unexploitable. Technique 4. Replace confession. Stop giving the blueprint to the unproven. Confession feels noble. It feels intimate. It feels like strength. But in a hostile environment, confession becomes a schematic for your capture. When you reveal what you're insecure about, what you fear, what you've endured, what you're desperate to keep, you are handing them the exact buttons to press. So you replace confession with controlled disclosure. You speak in principles, not wounds. You share experiences as finished chapters, not open injuries. You answer questions, but you don't volunteer vulnerabilities to earn closeness. This doesn't make you fake. It makes you secure. Because intimacy without screening is not intimacy. It's exposure. And understand this. The savior archetype will try to pull your wounds out of you. They'll frame it as care. They want to become your only safe place. That's how they install themselves inside your nervous system. Your rule, no one becomes my sanctuary. I am my sanctuary. Technique 5. Engineer absence. Teach them what life costs without you. This is the most feared move because it exposes the truth. Most men use presence as proof of love. That's backwards. Presence is only valuable when absence has consequences. Engineering absence means you strategically remove yourself, your attention, your availability, your emotional supply, and observe what happens. Not as a tantrum, as a test. If they respect you, they adjust. They communicate cleanly. They invest. If they exploited you, they escalate. Guilt, accusations, bait, panic, smear campaigns, sudden affection. That reaction is intelligence. Absence does two things. It breaks their conditioning loop, no more instant reward from triggering you. It reveals whether they valued you or used you. Engineering absence is how you stop guessing. You stop interpreting. You stop hoping. You get data. And once you have data, you act like a strategist. Respect gets access. Games get distance. Disrespect gets removal. No debates. No closure meetings. No one last talk. A man who requires closure is still attached. A man who can walk without explanation has graduated. These 5 techniques work together like a security system. Deny access removes entry points. Control time destroys their tempo control. Starve validation removes their reward. Replace confession protects your blueprint. Engineer absence exposes motives and breaks hooks. Now we do the final move, identity death. Because if you keep the old self, the one who needs to be chosen, you'll eventually betray your own strategy when loneliness hits. Detachment techniques fail for one reason: the old you is still alive. You can deny access for a week, control time for a month, starve validation for a season. Then one night, your chest gets tight, your ego starts bargaining, and you crawl back to the same door you swore you'd never knock on again. Not because the strategy was wrong, because the identity running the strategy was weak. So this chapter is not about behavior. It's about execution. Not the execution of other people. The execution of the version of you that keeps volunteering for captivity. That version has a name, even if you've never said it out loud: the chosen seeker. The chosen seeker lives for selection. He wants to feel special in someone's eyes. He wants confirmation that he matters. He wants the relationship to be proof that he is worthy. He doesn't pursue women. He pursues verdicts. And every verdict can be delayed, weaponized, and priced. That's why the chosen seeker is a dream target for the ghost and the dealer. They don't need to beat him. They just need to keep the verdict dangling. He'll do the rest: chase, apologize, overinvest, tolerate disrespect, because his addiction is not the person. It's the possibility of being chosen. Identity death means you kill that addiction. Here's the first cut: stop calling your hunger love. Love is stable. Love is clear. Love does not require constant reassurance. What you call love is often a cocktail of ego, scarcity, and fear. You want them because they're uncertain. You want them because they're withholding. You want them because they make you feel like winning them would upgrade your identity. That's not romance. That's conquest, and the prize is your own self-esteem. A sovereign man doesn't outsource self-esteem. So we replace the chosen seeker with a different identity: the selector. The selector does not ask, "Do you want me?" He asks, "Are you qualified to be near me?" That question changes everything, because it forces you to judge with your standards, not beg with your emotions. It turns you from applicant to gatekeeper. Most men say they want power, but they refuse the loneliness that comes with standards. They want sovereignty without solitude. That's impossible. Standards separate you. That's the point. Identity death is accepting that not everyone gets access to you, and you don't need to justify it. Your life is not a public audition. Now the second cut: kill the fantasy of fairness. You keep getting trapped because you believe people should be sincere. They should communicate. They should appreciate loyalty. That moral language is how you get disarmed. The world doesn't run on should. It runs on incentives. If someone benefits from your confusion, they won't clarify it. If someone benefits from your pursuit, they'll stay just out of reach. If someone benefits from your guilt, they'll keep you indebted. Fairness is irrelevant. Incentives are law. When you stop expecting fairness, you stop being shocked. And when you stop being shocked, you stop reacting. That's detachment at the identity level. You don't take surprises personally because you understand the species. Third cut: kill your need to be understood. This one is lethal because it's where good men get captured. You want the other person to understand your intentions, your heart, your effort. You want to clear your name. You want to correct the narrative. That urge is not maturity. It is dependence on external validation. A sovereign man does not plead his case. He moves. If you did what was right by your code, that's enough. Let them misread you. Let them call you cold. Let them label you. Labels are cheap. Your time is expensive. The moment you stop chasing understanding, you become hard to manipulate with false accusations and guilt. Fourth cut. Kill the rescue instinct. Many men don't attach to women. They attach to missions. Fix her. Save her. Prove love by tolerating damage. This is how the savior archetype traps you, by making suffering feel meaningful. Suffering is not proof of love. It's proof you lack selection. If someone's life is chaos, and you make that chaos your responsibility, you will drown with them. You don't get a medal for dying in someone else's storm. The selector helps, offers guidance if earned, but does not become a crutch. A crutch becomes a chain. Fifth cut. Kill the scarcity myth. You act desperate because you believe options are rare. Not women, options for connection, for respect, for intimacy, for belonging. So when someone offers a taste, you cling like it's the last drink of water. This is where identity death becomes practical. Build a life that makes scarcity false. Work that exhausts your time in a meaningful way. A circle that doesn't revolve around chasing. Skills that increase your leverage in the world. Physical discipline that stabilizes your mood. Financial structure that removes desperation. This isn't self-improvement. This is infrastructure. Infrastructure is what prevents you from crawling back. Because the real enemy is not the manipulator. The real enemy is your emptiness. Empty men attach fast. Full men select slowly. Now, understand what identity replacement actually looks like day to day. A chosen seeker receives a cold message and panics. A selector receives a cold message and observes. A chosen seeker argues when disrespected. A selector removes access and replaces the contact. A chosen seeker feels guilty for setting boundaries. A selector treats boundaries as basic hygiene. A chosen seeker needs closure. A selector needs clarity, and if clarity isn't given, he creates it by leaving. This is the replacement, from emotional negotiation to strategic policy. And yes, it will feel like death. Your nervous system will scream. You will feel mean, cold, selfish. Those feelings are withdrawal. That's the addiction leaving your body. You don't need to feel ready. You need to act like a man who is done being owned. Detachment becomes permanent when your identity changes from "I hope I'm chosen" to "I decide who enters." You came here for techniques. Fine. You got them. But this is the real work. Becoming the kind of man who can hold the line when the phone is quiet, when your ego is hungry, and when the old hooks come back. Now you finish the transformation with one final message, a warning that seals the doctrine and tells the viewer exactly what happens if they refuse it.